The Seeker Essentialist, sitting among the crowd, spoke to Acadias. "Tell us, O wise teacher, why you didn't say how unity between Creator and creation was broken in the first place. Who would you blame but the dark desires of man which has made our blood unclean? And who could you praise but the Celestials and Nephilim, our lords of renown, who have made us pure? Or were you simply too ignorant to realize that all who are not born of celestial bloodlines are forever unclean, unless cleansed by a lord of renown?" Acadias looked at the Seeker and said, "If any of that were true, I would have said so. In fact, many of you here have been taught that it is a man's blood which has made him holy or unholy. But I tell you that cannot be true, for there is only one who is holy, and all else has been born of the disease." "What disease? No celestial, Nephilim, nor their offspring can contract a disease of any kind." One of Acadias' followers replied to the Seeker, "Oi, would you stop interrupting?" "It's fine, Fellow-Veer. Let the Seeker speak freely. To answer your question, the disease I speak of is not one which has infected the body, but the soul, and through the soul, the body." "Infected the soul?" asked the Seeker. Acadias smiled and responded, "Yes. Allow me to share with you the story of the tree and the disease. As I have said, at the beginning of all things was the void, until Elovas turned the void into creation with just a word. And when the world of Elovir had been created, Elovas planted magnificent trees, flowers, and vegetation in a garden that he called the Evergarden, which you have seen but cannot enter. In the Evergarden, Elovas planted a seed which grew into a tree more glorious and produced fruit sweeter than any other in creation, and he named that tree Life. And Elovas saw that all he had made was good, but the garden was not made for Elovas. For it is written, 'Let us make 12 in our likeness, who will partake and tend to this garden.' Then from the dust of the ground and the branch from the tree named Life, 12 children were born in the Evergarden, and he called his children the greater ones. Elovas told his children, 'All that is in this garden I have made for you, my beloved. Partake and tend to the needs of the garden. And as for this tree, which I have named Life, it is the greatest among all others, for through this tree we shall make great wonders for the world of Elovir.' And so they did, as mortals, mythic beasts, and angelics were born from Life's fruit, and 6 new greater ones born from its branches. Elovas then gathered each of them and said, 'All that is within this garden I have made for you. However, outside of this garden lies a creature that you shall not even lay your eyes upon, for it wishes that you may die.' And for a time they obeyed Elovas' words. The creature prowling outside of the Evergarden was a malevolence called the Disease, a predator radiating death and malice towards creation. The Disease could not in its own power enter the Evergarden, but discontentment born from pride grew in the heart of a greater one, and for the sake of his own splendor invited the Disease in as its carrier into the Evergarden. The carrier then used the Disease to infect the tree named Life, so that all who eat of its fruit would surely die. Immediately Elovas appeared before the carrier and said, 'You have given your heart to wickedness and committed to do evil in my presence. For this I will cast you and the new god you serve into a prison away from this plane for a time, and I will remove your name so that it will never again be known to anyone. And for your evil deeds you have been given a new name, the First.' And the First was cast into a prison and placed into the plane of renewal, where passions of creation ignited flames that could not be extinguished, and for the wicked there was great suffering. Elovas then gathered creation to the tree named Life, and commanded them to no longer eat the tree's fruit, or they would surely die. And for a time they adhered to their Creator's command. But temptation entered the hearts of mortals, asking, 'Surely it isn't true that we will die?' And mythics said, 'We are great in might and stature. It is not possible for us to know death.' And angelics boasted, 'We are made in the glory of the first branches. They will not let us die.' And even the children of Elovas were given over to temptation. So each took the infected fruit and ate it in disobedience to Elovas' command. Then all who had eaten the fruit were immediately infected by the disease. And when they had recognized what they had done, Elovas called for them in the garden. Then they each fled the tree and hid elsewhere, except for the greater ones, who stood before their father, who asked them, "There is fruit missing from this tree. Where has it gone?" The children began to blame each other and create lies about the missing fruit. The father asked, "Who has taught you to lie? And who made you forget to hold yourself responsible? And why does the rest of creation hide from me? Tell me truthfully what you have done." The greater one, Alathas, admitted that they had lied and passed blame and hid because they had eaten from the infected fruit and were afraid. Elovas then called out to those who had hid, and hearing this, mortals, mythic beasts, and angelics drew out from their hiding place to stand before the Lord of creation. Elovas said to the mortals, "Because you did not obey my words, you have cursed the ground and the womb which you have come from, and they will now bring toil and pain as you work and bear children, and each child will bear the same disease as their father." Elovas then spoke to the mythic beasts, saying, "Because you did not obey my words, your countenance will resemble that of lesser beasts of the land, sea, and air. You will war and struggle over petty territories all the days of your lives. And when the shards of magic you carry are broken, they shall regenerate, but you will forget even your names." Elovas then turned to the angelics and said, "Because you did not obey my words, the pride of your radiant glory shall cause you to stumble as a snake to your heel. Bitterness and pettiness shall rule your thoughts, and mercy and grace shall be a blurry visage to your eyes." And Elovas stood before his children and said, "And to you, whom I have created all that resides in the Evergarden, because you did not obey my words, you shall be cast away from the Evergarden with all your creations. You will guide them throughout Elovir and establish domains for them, but they will resent your ways and your works. You will seek them, but they will reject you. And on that day, my children, you will seek out the gates of the Evergarden in repentance, and I shall open what was once shut to any who seek forgiveness." And so it was that the children of Elovas were removed from the Evergarden, and wept bitterly, for they saw that indeed it had been shut up from them. Therefore, Seeker, how could Celestials and Nephilim, these lords of renown, who are themselves mortal offspring of infected fruit, be pure? For as the evil of the disease came into the world through the greater ones, so all offspring born of this tree, whether mortal, mythic, or angelic, are born with the disease, for all have chosen to follow its ways. It is for this reason that only one who is not born of the tree named life can sacrificially purify it, and by this give hope to creation that it is not your blood that will make you holy, but your faithful bond to the will of Elovas. "Clearly you've spun this fantastical tale to confuse these people, knowing well that none of your words could possibly be proven," said the Seeker. "Yet even if your words could be true, do you realize what kind of chaos it would bring to our way of life? Only a man filled with spite and envy for the lords of renown would dare imagine such lies." Acadias slowly walked along the front row toward the Seeker, and with furrowed brow responded, "You claim to be a Seeker of Elovas, one who has studied the ways of his children. Yet the stories which have been passed down and laid up in Eldurrin's temple, and now I have repeated here, you say are lies. Had you only read the stories of your forefathers with open eyes, you would see that I did not imagine these things. And you know the children of Elovas have promised to dwell within Eldurrin's temple for as long as it stands. You could have asked them if these things are so. But you temple rulers and the lords of renown you worship have forgone the teachings of the prophets and judges before you for new idols, and have set aside the wisdom of the greater ones for your own understanding, forcing those who follow you to swallow lies. These lords of renown claim in their own authority that the sun shall never set on Enderall. For how could Elovas withhold glory from the capital of creation? A true saying I give to you now. As sure as the day follows night, the branch which carries the disease rages against his current prison. But soon he shall be released, and darkness follows his steps. And when he arrives, not one stone from Enderall's kingdom shall again meet the sun's embrace." The crowd began to buzz with a mix of angst and anger. Yet Acadias stared at the Seeker, whose face quickly morphed from indignation to worry at the crowd's stirring. Acadias then addressed the crowd. "Be still, my friends, and seek first this day the ways of Elovas found in the teachings of your forefathers, in the wisdom of the greater ones found in Eldurrin's temple, and in the words that I speak." The Seeker Essentialist reclaimed his indignation and rose to his feet. You would dare attempt to undermine the authority of the temple? We Seekers and Wise Masters have been granted authority to teach as though from the seat of the Creator. Look at what you've done. These people grow restless because of your accusations. Acadias responded, The people grow weary because the burden you Seekers and Wise Masters lay upon them with sacrifices and temple offerings is too heavy. Yet what you say is true. The Seekers and Wise Masters of Eldurrin's temple have been given authority to teach us from my father's seat. So, to you, my friends, I tell you, reject wholly the teachings and commands of these lords of renown. But for the Seekers and Wise Masters, do and observe whatever they tell you, but not the acts they do, for they teach and preach and proselytize, but would never themselves dare practice the same words. What did you say? Asked the Seeker. Did you not read in the teachings? They will steward the seat of creation until the heir, the son of creation, claims his inheritance. You were meant to be the true stewards of that seat, but instead you will fulfill this prophecy, saying, And the heir shall approach his inheritance, but thieves shall seize him, and beat him, and kill him, to plunder what was meant for him. But they will not overcome him. Therefore, I tell you, since you have defiled the holy authority given to you, it shall be taken away, and given to those who have faithfully sought after the ways of Elovas. Acadias turned towards the crowd, who was listening closely. My friends, all that I have spoken of, and the teachings of your forefathers, and the wisdom of the greater ones, hide these things in your heart. For my time with you is short, and the march of darkness will force you to flee from your homes. And the teachings of your forefathers will be veiled behind deception, and the faithful greater ones shall remove themselves from Eldurrin's temple as it is swallowed up by the abyss. But know that even when all things pass away, these words I give you shall never pass away. And when I must leave you, know as sure as the sun rises in the morning, the heir shall return to put away death and decay forever. Hearing this, the Seeker Essentialist tore his garment and beat the ground with his fist. I can no longer be a witness to such blatant heresy. All your blasphemous words shall be reported to the temple scribes at once. Acadias smirked. Leaving so soon? I haven't even finished yet.